Kale leaned back in his seat aboard the small human shuttle, glancing out the reinforced window at the swirling clouds of Liara's home planet below. He had never been anywhere like this before. The planet's surface shimmered in hues of teal and gold, with floating cities perched high above the ground like jewels on a crown. Alien structures twisted in impossible spirals, and streams of light reflected off metallic towers that seemed alive with energy. The shuttle's engines hummed softly, and Kale flexed his fingers on the control panel. He had been sent here as part of a human delegation tasked with negotiating trade rights and cultural exchange with the alien kingdom, but he also knew that his charm and quick thinking might be needed for more delicate situations. Liara's people were proud and ancient. Their traditions were strict, and humans were often seen as reckless newcomers, full of bold words and brash actions. Kale, with his natural wit, had already earned a reputation for pushing the limits and sometimes paying the price. The shuttle touched down on a landing platform that extended from a massive, crystalline palace. Guards in flowing silver robes moved with precise synchronization, their eyes glowing faintly as they scanned the human delegation. Kale straightened his jacket and followed the lead diplomat, keeping his hands relaxed. He didn't want to appear nervous, but he had learned long ago that in alien courts, appearances could be as dangerous as words. As they entered the palace, Kale's eyes widened at the sheer scale of it. The halls were impossibly high, lined with translucent walls that shifted colors subtly with every step. Strange symbols floated in midair, projecting messages or images Kale didn't understand. Soft music filled the air, unlike anything he had heard before, melodies that seemed to resonate directly with the mind rather than the ears. A courtier led them into a grand banquet hall, where a long table was set with dishes that shimmered like liquid gems. The alien guests looked down from their seats with curiosity, their tall, elegant forms covered in garments that seemed both regal and otherworldly. At the head of the table sat Princess Liara, her presence commanding without a hint of arrogance. Her eyes, a striking shade of violet, seemed to study Kale with a mixture of amusement and intrigue. Kale forced himself to take a deep breath and smile. Diplomacy required a delicate balance of respect and charm, but Kale's natural inclination leaned more toward boldness. He had spent years learning alien etiquette in theory, but in practice he often relied on instinct, and instinct had served him well so far. "Welcome, humans," Liara said, her voice musical but firm. "We have heard much about your species. You are unpredictable, are you not?" Kale chuckled softly, bowing his head slightly. "We are, Your Highness, but sometimes unpredictability can lead to great things." Her eyes twinkled, and Kale felt a surge of confidence. Perhaps he had made a good first impression. The other courtiers murmured among themselves, exchanging looks that Kale interpreted as both surprise and caution. The dinner progressed with a series of formal speeches, discussions of trade, and subtle negotiations over interstellar treaties. Kale found himself relaxing, slipping into the familiar rhythm of conversation. He noticed Liara's gaze often returned to him, and a mischievous idea began to form in his mind. As dessert was served, a glowing fruit that seemed to float above the plate, Kale leaned slightly toward Liara and said, "You know, with all the grace and intelligence you've shown tonight, I think you would make a wonderful wife." The hall went silent. Kale immediately realized the weight of his words. In Liara's court, marriage was no trivial matter. It was political, ceremonial, and bound by traditions that had lasted millennia. He had just made what could be considered a dangerous joke. To his surprise, Liara did not look offended. Instead, she smiled, a slow, deliberate smile that sent a ripple of shock through the court. "Then it's agreed," she said, her voice calm but undeniably assertive. Gasps echoed through the hall. Courtiers exchanged alarmed glances. Some whispered furiously, clearly trying to reconcile the audacity of a human with the seriousness of their princess's reply. Kale's stomach dropped. He had meant it as a tease, a playful comment to lighten the tension. But now it seemed as though he had unknowingly triggered something far more serious. Liara continued, her violet eyes never leaving his. If a human dares speak boldly in my presence, he must also show he is worthy of such words. You will undergo trials, Kale of Earth, to prove your wisdom, courage, and understanding of our people. Only then can this agreement hold any meaning. Kale swallowed hard, realizing that his jest had now become a challenge of a lifetime. He nodded slowly, masking the flutter of excitement that coursed through him. I accept, Princess. I'll do whatever it takes to earn your respect. The court erupted into a mix of approval and protest. Some admired Kale's bravery, others worried about the potential consequences of a human entanglement in royal affairs. Liara's gaze, however, was steady and unwavering. She had seen something in Kale that no one else had, a spark of ingenuity, the human quality of adaptability, and a courage that could be both reckless and brilliant. The first trial was set for the following morning. Kale was led to a vast chamber filled with strange mechanisms, glowing panels, and floating symbols. Liara's instructions were simple yet cryptic. He must solve the trials using intellect, intuition, and creativity. Failure was not an option, but the definition of success was deliberately vague. Kale studied the first puzzle. It was a complex lattice of floating shapes, each inscribed with symbols that shifted constantly. Humans were not known for understanding alien languages instantly, but Kale had a talent for pattern recognition. He began experimenting, rotating the shapes mentally and physically, trying different combinations until a sequence of clicks and lights confirmed his first success. The next challenge tested his ability to negotiate and empathize. A series of holographic alien envoys appeared, each presenting a problem that required careful listening and understanding of their culture. Kale realized that brute logic would not be enough. He had to intuit the underlying motivations and values of these beings. Using empathy and observation, he offered solutions that respected their traditions while still achieving effective outcomes. Each success earned subtle nods from Liara, who observed silently from a balcony above. Hours passed in this way. Kale's mind was constantly engaged, balancing intellect, creativity, and human intuition. The final trial involved courage, a simulated scenario where he had to make a critical decision under pressure. Alien projections created a scenario in which the kingdom was threatened by an unexpected disaster. Kale had to act quickly, making choices that affected hundreds of simulated lives. His decision-making combined human ingenuity with careful reasoning, and the simulation concluded with a dramatic visual display of success. Liara descended to the chamber after the trials ended. Kale, exhausted but exhilarated, bowed. "Have I passed, Princess?" he asked, his voice tinged with hope and nervousness. Liara smiled, walking around him, her gaze evaluating yet approving. "You have done well, Kale. You have shown intelligence, courage, and respect for our people. Few humans could have navigated these trials with such skill. You have earned not only my attention but my admiration." Kale felt a rush of relief and pride. He had expected challenges, but the level of difficulty had been extraordinary, and yet he had risen to meet them. The court formally announced his successes, though some remained skeptical. Kale realized that earning respect in an alien culture was far more complex than he had imagined. But he also knew that humans had a way of surprising even the oldest and wisest of alien civilizations. Our ingenuity, adaptability, and courage, he thought, could carve a place for humanity anywhere in the stars. As the evening drew to a close, Kale and Liara walked together along a balcony overlooking the city. Light streams from floating towers illuminated their path, casting long reflections across the crystalline floor. "You humans are audacious," Liara said, her tone more playful than formal. You say words without knowing their full consequences, and yet somehow you turn them into achievements. Kale laughed softly. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I like to think it keeps life interesting. Liara's violet eyes sparkled. Perhaps. But you will need more than audacity to navigate what comes next. Our kingdom has enemies, and not all will welcome the idea of a human proving himself worthy of a princess. Kale nodded. I've faced danger before. I've learned that the unexpected is just another challenge to overcome. They walked in silence for a moment, watching the alien city shimmer below them. Kale felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. He had entered this world as a guest, a representative of humanity. But now he realized he had become a participant in something far larger, a test of wits, courage, and diplomacy that could define not only his future but humanity's place in this alien civilization. Liara finally spoke again, her voice soft yet commanding. Rest tonight, Kale. Tomorrow will bring new challenges and you will need all your strength and insight. But remember this, your humanity is your greatest weapon. Cleverness, courage, and heart, these are qualities our kind rarely masters so well. Do not underestimate yourself. Kale felt a surge of determination. He had landed in an alien world with nothing but his wits, his adaptability, and the unpredictable charm that often got him into trouble. Now, those same qualities were his lifeline. He would face whatever trials awaited with the same boldness that had led him here, trusting that humanity's ingenuity would shine, even in the shadow of alien tradition. As Kale returned to his quarters, he gazed out at the swirling alien skies, the floating towers, and the glowing cities. He allowed himself a small smile. The game had only just begun, and he was ready to play. Tomorrow, the real tests would start, and Kale knew that in the trials ahead, humanity's unique strengths might just prove more powerful than even the oldest alien traditions. Kale woke to the soft hum of the palace. The alien skies outside his window glimmered with the early rays of a strange sun, casting long streaks of teal and gold across the floating towers. Today would be the beginning of the second phase of his trials, and Kale knew that nothing would be easy. The first tests had measured his intellect, creativity, and courage, but Liara had warned him that the coming challenges would test his adaptability and resolve in ways no simulation could prepare him for. He dressed quickly and made his way to the council chamber. The hall was already alive with activity. Alien courtiers moved with purpose, discussing matters in a language Kale could only partially understand. Liara waited at the center, her violet eyes fixed on him with the calm authority that had both intimidated and intrigued him from the start. You have performed well in the first trials, she said as he approached, but admiration alone does not secure respect in my kingdom. There are those who seek to undermine you, to prove that a human cannot belong among us. You must navigate the intrigue as skillfully as you solved the puzzles yesterday. Kale nodded, feeling the familiar thrill of challenge. Danger had always been part of his life, whether in the narrow corridors of human space stations or in uncharted star systems. But this was different. The stakes were higher, and the consequences of failure could ripple far beyond him, affecting the fragile peace between his people and Liara's kingdom. The first test of the day came quickly. A series of holographic projections appeared in the chamber, depicting various members of the court in conversation. Kale observed closely as the images shifted, each showing subtle tensions, whispers of betrayal, and hidden agendas. He realized that some courtiers were plotting to discredit him, hoping to prove that a human could not navigate their complex social structures. Kale leaned back, analyzing the relationships and intentions of the projected figures. He saw patterns that no simulation could have taught him, the way a glance could betray ambition, how a hesitant gesture revealed doubt, and the way alliances formed silently beneath the surface. Using his understanding of human psychology, he began predicting actions and identifying key players. His mind worked quickly, balancing logic with intuition. The second challenge required direct negotiation. Kale was tasked with resolving a dispute between two alien factions that had been at odds for decades. Each side presented demands, some reasonable, some intentionally impossible. Kale listened carefully, offering solutions that respected tradition while finding creative compromises. He suggested alliances that allowed both factions to maintain dignity while achieving practical goals. Liara observed quietly, noting how Kale balanced assertiveness with empathy. His human perspective, unbound by centuries of tradition, allowed him to see possibilities that her people had overlooked. She felt a surge of admiration. Humans, she realized, were unpredictable in ways that could be extraordinarily effective. But just as Kale began to feel confident, a third challenge arose, a real and unexpected danger. Alarms echoed through the palace as a group of saboteurs, hidden among the court, attempted to disrupt the trials and seize control. Kale's instincts kicked in immediately. He recognized the subtle signals of attack, small changes in posture, glances exchanged too quickly, whispers that carried hidden threats. Without hesitation, Kale acted. Using his knowledge of the palace layout, he moved strategically, alerting loyal guards and guiding Liara to a secure location. He coordinated with both human and alien allies, devising a plan on the fly that required precision, speed, and trust. His actions were bold but calculated. Within minutes, the threat was neutralized without bloodshed. The court watched in awe. Liara's advisors whispered among themselves, recognizing that Kale's quick thinking had saved not only the trials but also the honor of the kingdom. Liara herself approached Kale afterward, her expression a mix of pride and approval. "You have proven more than skill in puzzles and diplomacy," she said. "You have shown courage under real threat. Your human intuition and decisiveness are rare qualities indeed." Kale felt a mixture of relief and satisfaction. The challenges had been intense, pushing him to think, act, and adapt in ways he had never imagined. But he also knew the trials were not yet complete. Liara had warned him that the final test would be personal, a measure of character, understanding, and trust. That evening, Liara led Kale to a quiet terrace overlooking the city. The lights shimmered like stars fallen to the ground, and the alien sky glowed softly with the energy of floating cities. "You have done well, Kale," she said, her voice calm and steady. "But there is one final test. It is not a puzzle, a challenge, or even a danger. It is a question of your heart, your values, and your commitment, not to me alone, but to the principles that guide your people." Kale listened carefully. He had learned that Liara's words were deliberate, chosen to convey meaning beyond the surface. He felt the weight of the moment. "The final test," she continued, "is trust. You must decide whether you are willing to act for the greater good, even when it requires sacrifice, even when the outcome is uncertain. You must prove that humanity is not only clever and brave, but honorable and steadfast." Kale took a deep breath, considering her words. He thought of his family, of his crew, of the countless humans who had faced impossible odds and prevailed. He thought of the alien kingdom, so full of beauty and complexity, now placing its fate in his hands. "I understand," he said finally. "I will act with courage, wisdom, and integrity, no matter the cost. That is what humanity does." Liara's eyes softened and she nodded. "Then you have passed every test, Kale. You have proven not only your ability but your character. You are worthy of trust, respect, and perhaps more." Kale felt a rush of emotion. This had begun as a playful tease, a joke about marriage and charm, but it had evolved into something far greater. He had entered an alien world as a guest, but he was leaving a part of himself here, earning a place among beings who had once seen humans as outsiders. The court formally recognized his success. Courtiers who had doubted him now approached with cautious respect, offering congratulations and tentative friendship. Kale realized that he had not only proven himself to Liara, but he had also demonstrated humanity's potential to thrive, even in the most alien of civilizations. In the days that followed, Kale worked closely with Liara and her advisors, helping to implement solutions to long-standing problems and fostering alliances between human and alien cultures. His insight, creativity, and courage continued to earn admiration and respect. One evening, Liara invited him to the palace gardens, a place of floating platforms and bioluminescent flora. They walked together in silence for a while, enjoying the gentle hum of alien life. Finally, she spoke. "Kale, your people are remarkable. You have shown qualities that even we, with centuries of history, often lack: ingenuity, adaptability, and a willingness to act with both heart and mind. You are an example not only for your kind but for all who dwell among the stars." Kale smiled, humbled but proud. "Thank you, Princess. I only did what humans do. We face challenges, take risks, and try to find solutions, even when the odds seem impossible." Liara's violet eyes sparkled with amusement and admiration. "Then perhaps this agreement we spoke of is not so foolish after all. You have proven yourself worthy, Kale. I am not a human and you are not bound by our traditions, yet somehow we have found common ground. Perhaps this is the beginning of something new, not just for us but for our peoples." Kale felt a thrill of possibility. The playful joke that had started this journey had transformed into a meaningful connection, a partnership based on respect, trust, and shared values. Humanity, he realized, could carve its place not only among stars, but also in the hearts of those who once seemed impossible to reach. As they walked back toward the palace, Kale reflected on the journey that had brought him here. From the moment he had teased Liara with a light-hearted comment, he had been tested in ways he could never have anticipated. Yet, through intellect, courage, empathy, and boldness, he had succeeded. He had proven that even a single human could make a difference, earning trust and respect in a world that once seemed distant and incomprehensible. Liara paused at the palace entrance, turning to face him. "Kale, there will be more challenges ahead, more trials of diplomacy, courage, and understanding. But I have confidence in you and in the humanity you represent. Together, we can face whatever comes." Kale nodded, feeling a deep sense of purpose. "I will do my best, Princess. Not just for me, but for humanity and for the trust you have placed in us." She smiled, a mixture of pride, warmth, and something unspoken, and then they stepped into the palace together. The lights of the city shimmered outside, reflecting the promise of new beginnings, unexpected alliances, and the enduring power of courage and ingenuity. Kale knew that this was only the beginning. Humanity had entered a galaxy full of wonders, challenges, and civilizations far older and more advanced than itself. But humans had a way of rising to the occasion, through cleverness, bravery, and heart. And Kale, with the trust of the alien princess and the lessons of the trials, would be ready for whatever the stars held next. The journey had begun with a tease. It had grown into trials of mind and spirit. And now, standing beside Liara, Kale realized that humanity could not only survive among the stars, it could shine. And as the alien sky glowed above them, he allowed himself a quiet smile, thinking that perhaps, just perhaps, this was the start of a story that would be remembered in both human and alien histories for generations to come.